episode 446 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Grace Winburn
and Michael O'Malley.
And a lot of kids I can hear.
Yeah, sorry, they're through the. I'm out on the porch for the podcast listeners, but there's kids inside, so the sound's leaking out.
On this week's episode, we're gonna be talking about kid-friendly entertainment to a degree with 1986's An American Tail as part of our Don Bluth series, and then in part one, we're gonna be talking about movies that we saw this week. And let's see, we got two new releases. Michael, I'm gonna start with your new release to kick us off, and that's John Wick 4.
Yeah,
I forgot what the name is for it.
It's John Wick Chapter 4, which is weird because John Wick Chapter 3 had a subtitle. It was like Parabellum or something like that.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
this is just John Wick Chapter 4, and I guess they didn't need a subtitle because I mean it is just John Wick. You know, if you know what John Wick movies are by this point. So he's Keanu Reeves, a guy who doesn't talk very much, wears a suit. Way back in the day, his dog got killed and that like drug him back into the mob, like this like incredibly Byzantine like underground world that like spans the globe. That's like got all these like fancy rules, and anyway, he's still doing that. And this time he wants out, like all the times he wants out. Yeah, this time he wants out for good. This time.
I promise it's for real this time.
For real. Yeah. The last time didn't count. Do over.
It didn't. And so he does what John Wick does, which is he wants to get out, but other people have a problem with that. And so they're going to try to stop him from doing the thing to get out. This time there's a few newcomers. So Donnie Yen is in here as this blind man who has a daughter who's Rita Sawano, actually, who's very cool. She has a bow and arrow that shoots people, and he like whacks people with his cane.
Wasn't he blind in the Star Wars movie too? I think he was.
Is that his thing?
Yeah, why are they making Donnie Yen blind and everything?
Oh wait, was he one of the like the monk wizard things?
Yeah, he was in.
He used the Force to see. Rogue One.
Is it? Yeah,
yes.
Rogue One.
Yeah.
I think he was blind. Anyway, sorry. I don't know why like Donnie Yen has to be blind and everything.
He's blind in this, and he's very cool.
He's Donnie
cool blind.
Yeah, you know, he's the movie does him. The movie does him well. You've also got let's see, Shamir Anderson is in this. He's like he's initially like a bounty hunter hunting John Wick, but he's not like affiliated with this underground world, but he's trying to like get hired by someone to kill John. The enemy. He's this guy named the Marquis, and basically he's like chaotic, and he's not really following the rules, and he's finding all these loopholes in the rules of the mob. So like everyone in the mob kind of hates him, but he's also going after John Wick, and he's got all this money, and so he is kind of calling the shots this movie. But he's Bill Skarsgård, so he's kind of like this like lanky, kind of small-looking dude who mostly uses his money to hire other people or manipulate other people. So John Wick's kind of on the run from him. You've got Lawrence Fishburne returning. You've got Ian McShane returning as well. Wait, what?
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne. Or not Lawrence Fishburne. Sorry, Lance Reddick.
Oh my God.
God damn, dude. You gave me a heart attack.
Sorry.
April Fools.
Sorry, I was like,
April Fools, no rules.
Yeah, Lance Reddick is in this posthumously, but so yes, rest in peace to him. But
my bad.
As far as I know, Lawrence Fishburne is alive and well.
Breaking news. Do it on the little ticker. Do the little
Cinematary leaks the death of Lawrence Fishburne.
Let's do it now.
So anyway, like I said, this is a John Wick movie. So
this is such a good audio gag, everybody.
Yeah, this is very funny.
Cinematary fun fact: Lawrence Fishburne is not dead. More on this at 11.
Yes. we better not still be recording at 11, or I'm going to start falling asleep like I did in John Wick. I saw John Wick very late at night, and it's a long movie. This movie is almost 3 hours, so that's like my main critique that I'll kind of like throw out up front, which is that this movie is an hour and 50 minutes long, or 49 minutes long, which is, or excuse me, 2 hours and 49 minutes long, which is too long, I say, especially because the pace of John Wick movies, as you know, has kind of developed into this, really intensely choreographed, elaborate action scenes followed by like very vibey and very like slow dialogue scenes in which like people talk about like covenants and trade coins and say like the old ways are dying and that sort of thing. And to be honest, those dialogue scenes kind of dragged in this movie, and there's most of them are like in the front half of the movie. So the front half of the movie is like mostly setting up all this stuff, and then the back half of the movie is where it really kicks into gear. Although there's of course fight scenes throughout. There's a really cool fight scene at the beginning where John Wick is on horseback in the desert, and they do the whole like Lawrence of Arabia thing where someone blows out a match and it does a cut to the horizon, which is very neat. There's like some pretty cool like illusions in this movie, but like in the midst of all this action scenes, there's a lot of like pieces placing together. We got to introduce like Bill Skarsgård and all that sort of stuff, and it kind of takes a long time because they've got almost 3 hours to burn. But eventually he gets to this point where he's in Berlin, and I don't remember why he's in Berlin, but all of the new guys, like the bounty hunters, are coming like swarming him in Berlin, and there's this fight scene in a club. And that's when the movie really kicks off, I think. Like this fight scene in the club, it's like this club with waterfalls in it, and so they're like going through waterfalls and just beating the crap out of each other, and then everyone's just dancing because there's like club music going on, and like they don't seem to care that there's like a homicide going on in this club. Everyone's just having a great time, and I was having a great time in the club. And then from there, he's got to go to France, and he's going to have a duel with Bill Skarsgård. And then there's this kind of like time sequence where he's got to like get to this church by dawn, basically. And it's like it becomes like a Western, like literal, like spaghetti Western, like stings with like, all that, like, crash, there's smash zooms or whatever those are called. And that's all really good fun too. And so overall, I came out pretty high on this movie. If you like movies, this is going to be up your alley. If you did not like the other John Wick movies, it's not going to sell you on anything. And yeah, that's my take. Actually, my last take, and I wrote this on Letterboxd too. I'm sorry about the siren.
You're coming for John Wick,
It's all the people that John Wick just slams to the ground, honestly. One last thing is, this movie can be very funny in some very unexpected ways that were unexpected to me. And it's funny specifically because there's all this video game stuff in here. Like, part of the going in Paris part, like, is they're in a roundabout. They're like stuck in a roundabout for some reason, and they're dodging cars, and it's more or less Frogger. Like, it basically does a Frogger thing. There's another fight scene where the camera like cranes up until it's like top down, and it's like a video, like a shooter, like Hotline Miami or something like that. There's just stuff like that where, I don't know, it's very whimsical at times, which is not something I would have associated with John Wick before. But like, this was clearly the filmmakers just being like, you know what, screw it. Like, John Wick is gonna be Frogger right now, or screw it, John Wick is gonna fall down 300 stairs in like a 1 minute long take or something like that. Where it's just like it's more willing to be goofy than I remember the other ones being, and I did appreciate that as well. So. Anyway, that was John Wick Chapter 4. It's good. It was a good time at the films, at the cinema.
Just not at like late hours.
Yeah, that was my mistake. I went at my show started at 8:40, which isn't super late. It's not super late. Like, I was out of there by midnight, but I'm just a sleepy guy these days. Like, I don't know, I'm just always sleepy, and especially when it's nearing midnight, it's time to go to bed. And so I was quite ready for the movie to be over, even though the best part is the end.
Well, John Wick, he's still cranking, so I guess
Got,
I guess they were working on a 5th one already. So there you go.
Are they really?
Yeah, I feel like like strong franchise. Like there's not really like a down John Wick movie. Like they're all pretty consistently entertaining.
It's true. I would be curious, without spoiling anything, like I'm curious how they would continue from this movie. I mean, I guess they always can continue. Like,
well, they do have some like spin-offs I know in the works.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to go that direction. But at
I
the
want
same
to see
time, at the same time though, like Keanu's kind of the hook. So
he is. Although, like I said, like the new people in this are pretty good. Like Rita Sawano is really cool. Like I would watch a movie starring her and Donnie Yen,
No,
like
she's
the
amazing.
father-daughter combo.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, John Wick 4, it's in the theaters now. Also in the theaters now is Creed 3, which I caught up with this past weekend. Real quickly I'm on the on cinematary.com writing about how much I fucking loved the first Creed movie. And so this is the first time since like it had been like 5 or 6 years since I had watched the first Creed movie. The first Creed movie is fucking amazing. Just a great movie. Just all around like just it like the way it's mainly like after watching these other two, which aren't like awful movies, but you can tell that like Ryan Coogler is on a different level than everybody else, related to this franchise. Like he has Peter Labuza had a really nice kind of breakdown on Letterboxd of Creed, and he just, Coogler's kind of like Spielberg in a way. It's very unfortunate that he got stuck in the fucking Marvel machine and shit, and is not making because even though this is a blockbuster movie, this feels very much like kind of he had free reign to just kind of do whatever he wanted with the Rocky franchise. But there's just these moments that you don't get in the second or third movie that you get in the first movie that are just kind of these subtle character moments that really don't seem like much. It's usually Coogler kind of lingering on a scene. So like, Adonis Creed, the Michael B. Jordan character, might be, you have like this great back and forth where, Adonis and Rocky are like hitting the bag together, and it's like, early on in the training, and then he brings it back later when Rocky's dealing with his cancer diagnosis, and it's just Adonis like hitting the bag, and you have like Rocky will just kind of linger at places. Sylvester Stallone's so goddamn good in this movie. Like it's really like they should arrest Mark Rylance for winning an Oscar that year. It's really a crime. And Coogler just like understands like how if you linger in scenes a little bit longer than you probably should, and you just kind of let these characters like just act natural, you really you get this like really beautiful sense of like who they are, sense of place. You really kind of hone in on what they're not only just their motivations, but like just like the kind of push and pull they're dealing with. You get a lot of like the tension sometimes between Adonis and Rocky or something like that. You can kind of feel in like these small moments that aren't like the this is the scene that's happening right now. And Coogler's just really good at kind of giving you those little small moments that add up to really getting a firm texture of this place and these people and like where they're at this point in their life that I don't think you necessarily get in the other two movies. So Creed's amazing. If you've not seen Creed, like it's on HBO Max right now, like go do yourself a favor and watch that. It's so well edited. It's incredible. One of the best blockbusters in the last 10, 15 years. Creed 2 is less so. I remember kind of being disappointed when I saw it, but it was also like Creed was like up here for me, and then so really Creed 2 was going to be a disappointment regardless. The thing that's frustrating about that one is you still get some like good Stallone moments. Michael B. Jordan is fine. He's not great really in these franchises. He does what he can with the character. Like what makes these movies great are the Stallone moments, or in like the second movie like the Dolph Lundgren, Victor Drago moments, and like that's what was kind of a bummer in this second movie was. Sorry, Grace, I'm gonna mute you. I'm getting some feedback. No, it's Michael. I take that back. I'm so sorry, Grace. I
had my mic off. I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, we're good. Um, the second movie, like the best part of the second movie is like these is kind of the tension between the Dolph Lundgren Drago character with his son Victor. They're famous from Rocky 4, and um like compared to the first movie, which is Adonis kind of like trying to build his own legacy out of the shadows of his very famous father, Apollo Creed, and like the Rocky legacy and all this kind of stuff. Like this one's way more interesting because of the events of the fourth Rocky movie. Like Drago has just been kind of relegated to nothing at this point. Like literally, it seems like his life leading up to the events of the second movie are all about like, I'm gonna like get back to where I was because Rocky defeated me in this fight, and so like I'm gonna make my son like a machine that will then go to America and like get us all this prestige and pedigree back. And you get a little bit of that, but you don't really get enough of it, and like that's kind of like that tension because you can, and again like I feel like Coogler would have handled it better because he would have really captured those small moments between Dolph Lundgren and the actor playing Victor Drago, because you can tell by the Victor character that like he kind of feels like he's in this because his dad is forcing him to. There's one scene where he like immediately like he directly kind of hints at that, but like I don't know, I feel like there was room to really kind of dig into that a little bit more. That's just, there's a lot of meat left on the bone in that movie that I kind of didn't totally, that I felt like there was more that could have happened, but at the same time still like I think I liked it more this time. I still think there's a lot of good stuff going on. Stallone again is still really good, just kind of having this estranged relationship from Adonis a lot of the time. So then Creed 3, which came out a couple weeks ago, Michael B. Jordan is behind the camera. There was like a whole thing. I guess Sylvester Stallone kind of wanted to like recapture the Rocky franchise, and they kind of they were like, no, we just won't use you anymore. We're going to kind of follow the Creed stuff. And Ryan Coogler came back and wrote the story and kind of worked on that end of things. And Michael B. Jordan does a solid job of directing. He doesn't, again, he's, Ryan Coogler is more talented than him and directs better, so like it doesn't have those touches that make it really like a special movie like Creed was. But he films the fighting a lot better than Stephen Caple Jr., who did the second movie. I was reading an interview, and like he was talking about the influence of like anime and things like that, like in terms of like how to kind of frame the fighting. You kind of get that, like the way that he sets up these fights feel a bit like a boxing match, but also feel like something like ripped out of a graphic novel or ripped out of an anime. Especially like you have this. So the story in this movie is Adonis has like reached the peak. He's retired. He's kind of like, he's got him and Tessa Thompson, like they have a kid now. Like they're just kind of building that post career legacy. And so then this face from his past, played by Jonathan Majors, who was somebody who Adonis ran with kind of when he was younger, who pretty much the story was that there was an altercation, the police got involved, the Jonathan Majors character pulled a gun, and he went away for many, many years to jail while Adonis ran off and got away, and then had like this crazy boxing career. And so Jonathan Majors has like been in prison for a long time. I don't want to say that, he might be in prison now, judging by his like whole legal situation. His character was in prison for a long time in the movie. But so he finally gets out. He kind of, it's one of those, like he hits him up, and Adonis is like, oh yeah, whatever I can do to help, I'll be happy to help you. And he's pretty much like, yeah, I want to win I want to be trained and like win the heavyweight title. And Adonis is like, yeah, that's not how that works. And he's like, well, I don't care, I'm older and I like need to make this happen. And so again, like not to ruin the whole, but like he like achieves that and pretty much is just like, I'm gonna, like Adonis, if you don't fight me, like you're nothing anymore. And so naturally, because it's a Creed movie, you're like, got to set up that final match. And the final boxing match between them is pretty like Jonathan Majors is just carrying that movie. Like, you know, he definitely is like a level up from Michael B. Jordan in terms of acting. Like he just has like this, it's not despair, it's just like this ambivalence. Like he just, like you look at him, and Adonis always has kind of this like, you know, like fiery, like, you know, I'm going to defeat you, you're the enemy type face to him. And constantly the Jonathan Majors character, who is, I think it's Dame, he kind of just has like this ambivalent look. Like Jonathan Majors has like his face just kind of like drooped down and like completely unengaged with like, this is a fight to the death, we're gonna like, we have to like do this. Like there's not it's not about like competition to him. It's like this kind of, it very, very much feels like this life or death situation. And the way that Michael B. Jordan films the final sequence, like they go a couple rounds and then it breaks into like this almost dreamscape where, you know, the whole audience of the match is gone, and it's like, you know, completely black except for the boxing ring, and like they're going back and forth, and like these echoes of the past are like shooting up around the ring around them while they're fighting, and it's just like this very like visceral, just kind of very stylized like way, because I mean you can just do the fights like they've been doing them for 2 movies now, and have they been doing them in like most boxing movies up to this point, but there's something kind of like at least new and fresh to like kind of bring this like stylized version that feels like they're bringing, because that last battle is much more like like internal than really like this external boxing match, and I felt like he was able to kind of personify that really well. Other than that, I don't want to, like, I've gone, you know, way too long anyway. But I think overall it's good. It's not as good. It's probably better than the second one, but it's nowhere near the first one. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you like these movies, I think this is a safe one to go to, but I don't think it does anything. Like, I'm worried that these are kind of getting to be like Rocky movies now, where it's kind of like there's the formula in place that you can kind of follow, and so that's how it's going to be.
I was about to ask you where you stand on the Rocky franchise, but I think you just answered that.
No, all the Rocky movies are generally pretty fun, but they kind of get this like formula in place, you know, like it's kind of, they all kind of go, and like that's fine. I don't know. I do think that losing Stallone hurts this one. Like that presence kind of, Wood Harris is kind of his trainer in this one, and he does a good job, but he just doesn't have like that. He just doesn't have the gravitas that like Stallone brings in the role.
Yeah, he's working on the blueprint from like Rocky 6, like Rocky Balboa. Like that's the movie where he gets that real like that depth to him. I feel like more so than the other ones.
So I think you miss him a little bit, but I don't know. Overall, I was entertained. Jonathan Majors is very good in this movie, and kind of just solidifies more that he's a good actor. But yeah, I want to jump real quickly to the Heroic Trio, which I caught up with. They have a number of Michelle Yeoh movies on Criterion Channel right now. A lot of them that we talked about in our series, but we definitely
they heard our plea for American distribution.
Exactly.
We made a difference.
Yeah, so, you know, they say that podcasts can't make a difference, and I think we did today. Yeah, and I hope, and I was reading something that a lot of those are going to get Criterion releases because they're on the channel, which if they put, honestly, this one on Criterion, I will buy it like first day. Like this movie, like I'm surprised it needs to get picked up as like a good like midnight movie, or just like a really fun, like it's just an insanely fun, absurd, surreal action movie. Like I'm going to try to really just run through the bullet points of because if you're like, well, what's this movie about? I can't really tell you. I have no fucking idea what this movie's about. You literally are like, I was texting Andrew during this, and like the first 15 minutes of the movie, you have Michelle Yeoh is stealing babies, and they've like had 18 babies stolen from this like very like it's, I don't know where in China it would be. It's just like this, like it's like this just comic. It literally feels like Gotham or something. It's like this comic book town. But yeah, 18 babies are stolen. And so then you have the police, this police lieutenant or whatever is on the case, but there's also this masked vigilante that's called Wonder Woman, who is also like trying to like figure out where the babies are as well. And mind you, also Michelle Yeoh has like this invisibility robe that allows her to just go places and be invisible. And at one point, like, is fighting this guy and chops off his finger, and the guy just eats his finger, and like that's the first 15 minutes, and I'm like, what the fuck is this thing about?
Wait, he eats his finger like of his own will?
Yeah, he like goes like this, and he just goes.
Oh,
Probably,
okay.
and then he swallows it.
So pretty much the skinny of what's going on is this. There's this. I don't know what the fuck he is. I'll be honest. This kung fu master guy who lives in the sewers, who is like training this army of like cannibalistic warriors, hence the finger eating, who are gonna lead this army, and like he's stolen 18 babies who like have this special gene who will make them the king of China. And Michelle Yeoh is like is pretty much like hypnotized by this person to kind of, or not really hypnotized. She's being blackmailed by this person because this scientist who she's in, like, again, like, just kind of roll with me, people. This scientist that she's in love with is developing the invisibility rope, and they've only got it set up so she can be invisible during the night, but he wants to get it set up so she can be invisible 24/7. And they're also in love, and she just like is so goddamn attractive this entire movie. Like just like I was in horny jail the entire time I was watching this, between her and Maggie Chung and Anna Moy, like all of them. So then Anna Moy is playing like Wonder Woman. She's also the wife of the police lieutenant, but he like doesn't know that she's this masked vigilante. Then you have this other vigilante played by Maggie Chung, who's named Chat, who like wears these steampunk glasses and wears all leather too, and is really hot, and is like a sharpshooter. And you're introduced to her where she like shows up at this hostage situation, whistling "London Bridge is Falling Down," and like saves all these hostages. So then you have like this convoluted how these people are all these women are all connected, but really the end of the story is they have to go and like save the babies and defeat the master guy. And at one, like, it ends in a fight where Michelle Yeoh's body is being is like a skeleton has constricted itself on the back of Michelle Yeoh's body and is controlling her. And at one point Maggie Chung headbutts this skeleton, and then it ends with the skeleton exploding, and that's the end of the movie. And it's like no, it doesn't make any sense. But it like why does it matter? Because you have all of these three deep, very attractive actresses kicking everybody's ass, and like it's just a fun fucking time. I don't understand any of it, but I don't really care. Like just a perfect midnight movie where you're like, there's a lot of carnage and weird shit. Like there's this whole, like, at one point they like a baby dies because it falls on a nail. I'm like, why are there babies dying in this movie? And then they like kill, like they had like the little kids who are being like have been turned into the cannibals, and they're like, we got to get rid of them. I'm like, oh god, and they just like burn all these kids. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It's a wild movie. It's kind of like Mad Max Fury Road, but like, you know, they like it was at 10, and then and then Johnny Toe, who directed it, was like, no, let's crank it to like 15. So it's like Mad Max Fury Road, directed by Joel Schumacher in his Batman era, starring Michelle Yeoh, Maggie Chung, and Anna Moy. Is that appealing to anybody?
Yes.
It's a hell of an elevator pitch.
I don't know. I don't know how we would have talked about it in this. In our series, it was a trip though. So, Heroic Trio, it's on Criterion Channel. Like I said, I might be getting a Criterion release, and I'm sure you could find it like somewhere online. I don't, but like I saw some people were talking about there's like an American dub that's terrible. And this one it was the Cantonese version on Criterion, so it was good. High recommend if you're looking for like let's just watch something insane. Speaking of watching something insane, though, Grace, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure. Well, I saw Spring Breakers, and that was a first watch for me.
Happy 10-year anniversary to Spring Breakers. It's
Happy 10 years. Like,
has it been 10 years? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Spring break forever, indeed.
Literally, yeah. Spring break is a state of mind. I had just come home from a night out with the girls. Like I was telling you guys, most of my movie watching these days, it seems like, is like at a girls' night or like with the girls. Movies are for the girls. And this movie is very much a girls only movie. I don't know. Did you guys like understand it? Was it a little over your head as boys? Like, I don't know, but
yeah, we struggled through it.
I've never been to Florida, so I don't really know.
So
anything.
I don't. Yeah, you don't. How could you possibly know? Florida exists. First of all, this is a real place. This isn't
That's
just
news to me.
Yeah, this isn't just like from the beautiful, dark, twisted mind of Harmony Korine. This is also the second movie I've ever seen by Harmony Korine. Fun story. I love to say this. I thought Harmony Korine was a girl. I was like, Harmony, what a beautiful name. Like, Harmony, I like love your style. You and me, girl, we're together. Like, I didn't know any fucking better. I had just seen Beach Bum when it came out. Like, I didn't know anything. I'd never really heard of Kids. I'd never heard of Gummo. Like, I know better now. So like, please nobody.
Oh man, wait till you like watch Kids or Gummo.
I'm sure those will be like really awesome trips too. But like, I was only seeing Beach Bum and I knew nothing. And I'm like, this girl's amazing. Like, you're speaking to me because Beach Bum really like. I will talk about Beach Bum until I am out of breath, dead, and dying. I think that's a fabulous movie. Fun, sad. Definitely makes you think about life and death, and I only like
forever.
Live forever. Yeah, like immortality. What does that mean? And then I'm seeing Spring Breakers. I like came home from, like I said, a night out, drinking, clubbing, and I was like, let's keep these vibes going. And immediately I'm hit with vibes. I'm hit with fucking Harlem Shake, Spring Break, twerk on the beach, tits out, like party forever, PCB. Like I was like, this was the spring break that like was happening while I was in school, but like I didn't go on. And this is also a spring break that I don't think we'll ever see ever again. I don't think like ever in a post-COVID world. Like
COVID,
what COVID took from us. Like I think like this is a relic. We watched it together. We also watched This Is My Cat for those listening. And we also watched American Tail. She got a little offended and we'll talk about that later. But
okay, that's fair.
Yeah. But Spring Breakers, incredible. I loved the cast. Selena Gomez, Ashley Benson, and Vanessa Hudgens, and then that other girl. I don't know who that was. I kind of feel bad for her because, like, you've got these three all-stars, and then you're that other girl. But
and then the other girl.
The other girl that got shot. Like, sorry, girl. Selena is fantastic in this. She is so soft and natural and scared. And I love that her name is Faith, of course, because she is like she has like a more religious lean. And because they couldn't call her Dorothy with how badly she wanted to go home, like, Faith just suits her. And then I don't think we get the other girls, or at least I didn't notice. I don't think we get the other girls' names until like later on because that's just not important. It's so interesting because it's like he sets it up as like it's going to be Faith's story, but then she gets sent home from the island. And then it keeps going, and then you think it's going to be another story, and then it keeps going, and it feels like it changed kind of directions.
It's Faith, Britt, Candy, and Cotty. And then good old Alien.
Yeah, oh my God. James Franco as Alien, hysterical. Was Danny McBride busy? I wonder, because that's fucking Kenny Powers, like threw him.
That would have been pretty good, actually. I want to
that would
see.
have been.
I want to see a remake with Danny McBride in that role.
I bet he read for it, and then
Damn.
that would like I'm the whole time I'm sitting here, I'm like glued to my couch. I'm like, this is Kenny fucking Powers. Like, where's my going this?
Danny McBride is like, you know, James. It's, you know, tired James Franco, wired Danny McBride. You know.
Yeah, like.
Oh my gosh, I had never thought about that, but all the pieces are falling together.
Of course, how did that? But it was right there. But he would have been great. But then it would have been too funny, you know. And like, I think that. But I also.
Well, you also need to be kind of skeeved out by him, and like James Franco skeeves you out.
Yeah, in the way that like Danny McBride would like definitely make you laugh, and there's definitely like a charm there that like is kind of I thought was missing. Like I get why why Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Benson, like why they are attracted to him, like what he represents. Not so much like at all for like who he is. But
he lets you look at all his shit.
Yeah, look at my shit. Look at my shit. Like, hell yeah. That is, I mean, it was great. I wonder, like, did he make that character organically? Is he like so method? Did he go down to Florida, spend some time? I don't know.
I would venture that James Franco does have shit you can look at.
I don't want to look at any of his shit. Like, if he brings me back, like,
yeah, that's probably true.
But yeah,
good call.
But Spring Breakers is wonderful. It's these 4 gorgeous, sweet young girls looking for that like perfect, not so much party, but just that moment of like something more. There's more to their life than going to school. They want to have fun. They want to like do exactly what they want to do without consequence and freedom. And in their mind, like spring break is that. And like, I also get that as well. The way that they hype it up, the way that they talk about, you know, things being different there, people understanding them. And that was so well done, so well written. But then also like so violent and so sad, like definitely like the vibes are up here when we're like partying on the beach and like spring break forever, and then it gets really, really sad and it really started bumming me out. And then I started dying laughing because no one fucking told me Gucci Mane was in it. Like, was anybody else just like, I was like, are you kidding me? Fucking Gucci Mane's in this. And he was incredible. Oh my God, he was acting his heart out. He was also fucking hilarious too. When he's like given the orders that he wants to hit on Alien, he's like, it's him. He's like looking at his people on this side of the couch. He's looking at his people on this side of the couch, and Camo follows him, and he's like, he's taking food out of my baby's mouth. My baby is hungry. My baby is starving. My baby needs to eat. Like, and he's bounced his little baby on his lap. It was just so funny. I mean, he acted it so well. It's so interesting. He's tough. He's direct. And then
Gucci Mane's Oscar where?
Because then he would have worn it. Like, instead of the ice cream cone, he would have been wearing that. No, he was so good, and you can really. I think it's so cool. It seems to me that like Harmony Korine really like he picks out these musicians, and he had Snoop, he had Jimmy Buffett and Beach Bum, he had Gucci Mane in this. I'm sure there are others, and you know more of his work, but his stuff is just so cool. I feel like I look up cool, like the word cool, and I'm like, yes. This is it. This is cool to me. This is interesting. This is compelling. And I think it is so fucking cool that these 2 probably like 21-year-old girls have this, like, shoot their way out alive, you know, away from this life. And leave it all behind, or so we think. I think that was so cool. Like, what an interesting ending. Of course it had to end that way. And like, and I feel like that's sort of like foreshadowed in everything that they do. Like it's always cutting to them partying, and they're always like, poof, poof, poof. They're always doing little things, and like they're just all tied up so nicely, and was just like so visually stimulating. It's so fucking cool to watch. Like, I like Harmony. Like, I'm sorry, I thought you were a girl. I think you rock. I think you make movies specifically for me. So thank you.
I would.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I would love a report back when you've seen like Trash Humpers or something. And
Yeah,
so
that's what I was gonna say.
I'm very curious.
Know, like fucking, like I said, I don't know, but
I love this, but
yeah, no, it's
he's got some range.
Yeah, like I feel like Spring Breakers came out and like it like tagged into like, I mean, me included, like a whole different audience of people, and they were like, oh man, what's going on here? And then like we watched Gummo for the podcast, and I was like, what the fuck? This is completely different and not cool or fun at all.
Man, no. Then I won't. They don't exist for me. I only
There are people who love Gummo. Like, you could be one of those people. I don't know.
I'm afraid to be. Anytime anybody's described as one of those people, I don't want to be that.
What are your feelings on eating spaghetti in a bathtub?
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't take a lot of baths, so I don't really feel like I can answer that.
Okay. Just saying. All right. Well, we're going to head into a break real quick, and then we will be back coming to America and finding a new life away from cats in An American Tale in Part 2 after this.
Somewhere out there, beneath the pale moonlight, someone's thinking of me and loving me tonight.
Somewhere out there, someone saying a prayer that we'll find one another.
And we're back with part 2 of episode 446 of Cinematary. In this part, we're going to be continuing our Don Bluth series with 1986's An American Tale. Directed by Don Bluth from a script by Judy Freudberg and Tony Geiss. The film stars Philip Glasser, John Finnegan, Amy Green, Dom DeLuise, Madison Kahn, and Christopher Plummer.
Wow.
Side note, Christopher Plummer plays the French pigeon for whatever goddamn reason. Anyway, a young mouse named Fievel Mouskowitz and his family immigrate from Russia to the United States by boat after their home is destroyed by cats. During the trip, a fierce storm throws Fievel, dumb bitch, from the ship, and he loses contact with his family.
The storm does not throw Fievel practically jumps.
No, it's the waves crashing.
Fievel's a dumb bitch. I'm sorry to tell you.
Stop it. It looked good.
Luckily, he manages to sail to New York in a bottle. There, Irish mouse Bridget, an Italian mouse named Tony, and a kindly cat named Tiger help Fievel search for his loved ones. Executive producer David Kirshner brought the original concept of the film to Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment, and it attracted immediate interest. Spielberg had initiated a relationship with director-producer Don Bluth and producers Gary Goldman and John Pomeroy after seeing their film The Secret of NIMH. Impressed by their capacity as former Disney filmmakers to recreate the style of early Disney pictures, Amblin agreed to move forward forward with An American Tail under the condition that Bluth and his colleagues at Sullivan Studios were committed to the project. This was going to be Spielberg's production company's first full-length animated feature, which is kind of, we'll put a little pin in that one for later. The character name Fievel is misspelled Fievel F-E. It's correctly spelled F-I-E-V-E-L, but is misspelled F-E-I-V-E-L in the opening credits. According to studio production notes, Fievel was named after Spielberg's grandfather, who immigrated to America from Russia. The scene in which Fievel presses up against a window to look into a classroom filled with American school mice is based on a story Spielberg remembered about his grandfather, who told him that Jewish people were only allowed to listen to lessons through open windows while sitting outside in the snow. I don't remember that scene in The Fabelmans, but that's fine. Spielberg eventually won out, though, because they were kind of going back and forth. Don Bluth thought that Fievel was going to be a little bit too difficult for people to remember, but Spielberg went out because he's fucking Steven Spielberg. And but they decided.
Wait, the name Fievel was going to be too hard to remember?
I guess so.
It's 2 syllables, man.
So.
Well, they decided to call, Tony's going to call him Philly, and that kind of changed everything.
He's Philly and Fievel.
Philly. According to a December 1986 New York News item, author Art Spiegelman formally accused Spielberg and Kirshner of appropriating the concept of his graphic narrative Mouse, first published in 1972 as an underground comic strip in San Francisco and in Marvel Comics' Comics book, and later in 1986 and 1991 as a 2-volume work. Spiegelman's Mouse recounts his father's survival of the Holocaust and his life in New York City after immigrating to America. Spiegelman's characters are represented by Jewish mice and Nazi cats, but Kirshner claimed that he had no knowledge of the graphic novel when formulating the concept of An American Tail. Originally, the concept consisted of an all-animal world like Disney's Robin Hood, but Bluth suggested featuring an animal world existing as a hidden society from the human world, like his own Nim and Disney's The Rescuers. Spielberg agreed after viewing The Rescuers. Bluth described the process of voice casting as, quote, sometimes you can select a name voice, i.e. a well-known actor, because it fits the essence of the character so well. Other times you need to seek an obscure voice, close your eyes and just listen to it. If it has the highs and lows in the deliverance of lines and it captures the focus of the character, it allows the animators to get a true fix on the action. Philip Glasser, who played Fievel, was discovered by accident when Bluth and his crew overheard him auditioning for an Oscar Mayer commercial. Nehemiah Persoff, a respected actor in many films, was chosen to play the part of Papa Mousekewitz, mostly because he had a similar role in Barbra Streisand's as Barbra Streisand's father in Yentl. John Finnegan won the role of Warren T. Rat by reciting excerpts of Shakespeare's Hamlet in the voice of a Brooklyn taxi driver. This idea inspired the writers to make Warren a pretentious illiterate who continuously misquoted Shakespeare. Spielberg's original version for the film was as a musical. It is said he wanted a hi-ho of his own, referring to the popular song from Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. 1986, the New York Times said, this may be a take An American Tail more seriously than was intended. If An American Tail were a funnier, less pious film, such thoughts would not arise. However, this is no exuberant Tom and Jerry contest. It's a movie that wears its ethnicity on its sleeve and has pretensions of being a sort of, quote, silly symphony epic. That sounds kind of anti-Semitic, New York Times.
I was just about to say, what the heck is up with that?
The LA Times in 1986 said, it's a strikingly original and frightening effect in a film that borrows heavily from other cartoons, notably Disney's Pinocchio and Bluth's Banjo the Woodpile Cat. Some unexpected bits of animation that demonstrate how good these young artists are and how much better they could be given a good script and better direction. And in 1986, Roger Ebert said, An American Tail is like Disney's 1985 Return to Oz, which opened with Dorothy strapped to a table receiving electroshock therapy. It has been written by people who want to prepare kids for the worst. I forgot to mention that the first thing Fievel discovers after his bottle washes ashore is that in America, there are cats. Also, Return to Oz is like way better, so banger movie. On that note, Grace, I'm gonna give the floor to you to kick us off on American Tail because hold on, let me get the quote correctly.
Oh no.
She said, and I quote, "It's when I said it's American Tail Week, I quote,
Oh no.
OMG, I'm gonna pee my pants, yes."
Wow.
So she was excited.
Let's hear that excitement.
Oh man, I love this movie. I love this movie. I grew up watching this movie. I have extremely fond memories of going to the shelf and picking out this VHS and putting it in the VHS player, and I knew how to do it all myself, and watching this and singing along and crying and laughing and dancing, and then taking it out and putting it in the rewinder and then waiting and then taking it out and then putting it back in the VCR. Like, this movie is everything. For me, it was it held my attention. My parents watched it with me, and that was also like a big that was like a positive check for me that like, oh, okay, like even my parents are interested in this, like they'll watch this with me, because most of the time they're like, no, we're not gonna watch your kids movies with you, like you got a nice little like bonding moment. But actually fun memories singing along. I like remembered somewhere out there, like when I found the VHS rip of it on Internet Archive, I was like, oh hell yeah, like this is exactly how I like to consume this. And I quoted the movie and I sang along, and I sure did cry, maybe a little harder, just for 6-7-year-old Grace. And so much I want to tell her. This movie is still so good. But some things that I noticed on this watch, there was a lot, like, bear with me when I say this, because like I know it's a little silly to say, but it was so much more patriotic than I remember it being. There was a lot more like subtle patriotism that I picked up on, like as soon as Feifel mysteriously finds this bottle in the ocean. It doesn't matter how, he finds the bottle after he gets thrown from the ship. He ends up in a bottle.
Literally jumped off the ship?
No, he didn't jump off the ship. The waves were crashing. He is so weak and small, and he's just a little mouse. And then this big old wave took him off the boat. And he finds a bottle, and he somehow finds the exact right current, and he washes up on shore to see the Statue of Liberty being made. And he's getting done up by Henri, and there's the flags behind him. It's like, oh, look, in case you forgot.
Well, and it's like, there's like a choral rendition of that Statue of Liberty poem too, right? Like going on like as he's washing up.
I think so. I think I must have missed that.
I only know because of the opensubtitles.com
The VHS subtitles. That.
Yeah.
Things you
missing
miss.
out.
The things you miss. But yeah, that then when he like falls into the I guess like the photographer Victrola or whatever, and it's Stars and Stripes Forever. And then I also really I didn't know that scene where he like comes across the little students saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I didn't know that that had some history there. I just thought that was so interesting that like the first thing he hears is the Pledge of Allegiance. And that they're all saluting instead of like hand over their heart. That was also that was interesting. That was different. But it's funny to say like the story of America is like, wow, it was so patriotic. I didn't pick up on that. But it's like, it's so cool because this is everybody's story. I remember watching it and really loving the little Italian mouse specifically. I was like, oh yeah, there's my family history right there. So it was nice to see my culture represented as well. For a movie that wears its ethnicity,
to be fair, everybody gets a wild like stereotypical portrait of what that ethnicity is. Like you have the Irish mouse who's just like wildly drunk and corrupt the entire time.
There's also the like friendly Irish mouse.
Yeah, it's like a little mix to it. Yeah,
it's not the worst Irish representation.
No.
No, it was so good, and the music in this is so memorable, and you instantly sing along. I like I said, Somewhere Out There like makes me cry, and No Cats in America, like that's a number. Like what you were saying, looking for a zone like Hi Ho, like I think No Cats in America, I think that ticks that box. So this is a fantastic movie all the way around. Feifel is a sweetheart. I think he has an adventurer spirit, and that serves him well. As a independent and adventurous American when we go west. But his little curious mind and nature and spirit does get him into a whole lot of hijinks.
Michael, were you was this one that was on the rotation when you were younger?
Rotation is probably the wrong word. I saw it a few times. I was definitely familiar with it before this, but I did not watch it as much. I think I watched Fievel Goes West more than this one, but I definitely saw this growing up, and I think like you, Grace, I don't think even though it's like right at the core of the movie, I don't think I caught the fact that this is like a movie about like the American immigrant experience. I just thought it was about mice, which is like I was 5 or whatever, like watching it. But as an adult, I was struck by. I knew, like, after having reflected on it as an adult, I kind of knew what I was in for in terms of the themes. But I was struck by like how conflicted this movie is about that narrative, because on the one hand you have all this like explicit like kind of nationalist or jingoist like patriotism in a way, you know, like the Statue of Liberty like winks at you, that's like the last shot, right?
Yes.
And like there's all this like pro-America stuff, but then there's all this like devastating stuff about like how America is a lie, you know. And it's weird that those coexist in the same movie, because they both seem like sincere sentiments held simultaneously. You know, like it doesn't seem like the movie is trying to be. I mean, there's some stuff that's like openly ironic, like the No Cats in America is, of course, like meant to be like kind of naive. But some of the other stuff, like with the French pigeon being like, "Oui, you're American now," and like, you know, like,
you're my little immigrant.
my little immigrant.
Again, that was voiced by Christopher Plummer.
Very, very strange casting. But like, all of that stuff seems to be sincere. But as soon as he gets into New York City, as soon as Fievel gets to New York City, he's like picked up by like a child trafficker, basically, who's gonna like sell him into like child labor. Like that happens immediately, like as he goes into the city. And then you have all this like kind of like amazing like, oh, we're all immigrants and we're gonna like protest the system and drive the cats out of America and all that. And that's all very like sincere and cool, like, and like kind of like the like archetypal like of like, you know, protest and like, you know, we're standing up for ourselves. But I don't know, it is weird like how like the kind of dual nature that presents of America, and it doesn't, I don't know that it could reconcile that, but it's weird that it's still so openly patriotic while at the same time saying that like, wow, America is full of scumbags, isn't it?
All I want to say, Gigi, come here. I want Don Bluth to look this guy in the face and say, why do you hate him? A wildly anti-cat movie. Why do you hate this? Why do you hate him? What has he done to you, Don
he
Bluth?
made the argument that not all cats with Tiger.
That's true. There's the token nice cat.
Tiger's great. I love Tiger. He is probably my favorite. I think I had a tiger stuffed animal. He was such a sweetie.
That musical number with Tiger is weird in the movie, because like Fievel's in a cage and Tiger shows up and Fievel's like, oh no, I'm about to be eaten by a cat, which I didn't really understand why the cats put him in a cage if they were just going to eat him anyway. Like, why not just eat him first? But at any rate, and then Tiger comes up and he's like, I'm your guard. And then he's like, but never mind, I actually don't want to be a mean cat, and so I'm going to let you out and we're going to be friends. And I don't know, like, he's a fun animated like character, and like I like his voice. And I remember him being in 50 Goes West and really enjoying him in that movie.
Oh, he's great in that.
But in this movie, he seems like a weird afterthought. Like he shows up like over halfway through the movie and only shows up to let Fievel out, and then later on kind of helps with the little mechanical scary.
Yeah.
What is
So
it?
the
A dog. Yeah, the
That-
the mouse of Minsk.
That
It did look like a dog.
horrifying
I used to
thing.
always think it was a dog when I was a kid, but it says so on the side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's based on the story his dad tells at the beginning of the movie, right?
The giant
Yeah.
monster.
Yeah. But anyway, like Tiger's kind of weird. This whole movie's kind of weird in the sense of how episodic it is. Like characters kind of come and go because like Fievel's just running around looking for his dad. Like he literally, anytime he sees a dark, scary hole, he runs into it and is like, "Dad, you in there?" And so like he's constantly leaving characters and then they come back, and that makes for a weirdly structured movie. And I don't know if that means that it's bad. I kind of like how shaggy this movie is. It reminds me of, even though it's later than this, it reminds me of like kind of 70s. It does kind of remind me of The Rescuers, to be honest. That kind of just like, we're just walking along and oh no, now we're meeting like this kind of animal who's this kind of ethnic stereotype. And then I don't know. It's a very free-flowing and loose movie compared to, let's say, like The Secret of Nim, which is so full of ideas and like packed so tight with stuff that it feels like it's like the opposite. Like this movie is allowed to breathe and meander in a way that surprised me, returning to it as an adult.
Yeah, so this is actually the first time I've ever seen this movie. I never watched it
really?
as a child.
Exciting.
Yeah.
How'd you feel, Zach?
I mean, I don't have that like nostalgic attachment to it, so I was just kind of like, okay. I mean, like I said, that's why I was like, Fievel, you dumb bitch. Like you're being stupid a lot of the time. It's that you're creating your own problems to a degree. Yeah, I didn't like. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like I don't have that like nostalgic attachment to it. So a lot of it was just kind of like, glossing over me. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sorry. I just never, it wasn't something I was watching, that I was watching when I was younger. I did like what you were describing there, Michael, like the shagginess of it. Like you just kind of did like pop around to like these different I honestly wish like you got like 20 or so minutes more in the movie just to kind of like add more, like let's just pop around to different like sections and communities of this little mouse New York world, because you really don't get too much time in any, it's all like Fievel's just like, I gotta go find my dad. But yeah, the music didn't do anything for me. I had no emotion. The final animation, it was interesting. I was reading one of the reviews, I think. Yeah, I think it was on Letterboxd, talking about like the first half of the movie is very lively and bouncing all over the place, and then the second part of the movie kind of becomes a more traditional like Disney movie with like zero stakes and just kind of plods toward the end. And that's kind of how I felt. Like I wasn't super invested by the end of it. I was more enjoying just like the walking, like just random bouncing around, Fievel running into different characters and different weirdos and things like that.
Him just narrowly missing his family at every turn, that used to drive me nuts.
Like seriously.
Yeah, it's great too. I like that.
Like he's at that rally, he's literally on the stage in a rally, and there's a woman with a tall hat in front of them, and they can't see him.
Papa, I can't see over her. She's too big. Yeah, like that drove me nuts. Like how they go by the little sewing or like the bag that the family like took up residence. I loved the way that they painted like the mouse immigrant experience as just like literally any hole in a wall that they could find, or like any suitcase or bag or box they've like made into a home, sort of to like to me that sort of like mimicked what like I know to be like the crowded New York tenement experience, like just anywhere that they could fit people. So I thought that they like did a really nice job like mimicking and mirroring like the little mouse society and the like the people. So that was like that. I thought that made it really cool and like interesting. If anything, like cool history, like that made me interested in that like time period in American history. I was like, okay, now when does the Moskowitz show up? Like when do I get to that in my textbook?
I do think like my favorite parts of the movie are the kind of things at the periphery, like a lot of the character animation doesn't do a lot for me, like because it's so cartoony. Like all the mice are just these like spongy, like blobby things, and they're kind of goofy. But then the backgrounds are extremely moody and textured, and I love that. And I love how they, like you were talking about, like depict these kind of like very small scale, like little corners in New York, like these kind of like dusty, like, you know, they're in the middle of like bricks or pipes or things like that. And the way it's drawn is very, it's very like dark, like the colors aren't very bright, and it I don't know. There's a lot of there's a lot of texture to the backgrounds that I thought was really interesting. And then like every once in a while when you get a glimpse of the human world, it's kind of striking too, because the animals are all very cartoony, and then the humans are extremely realistic. And that's again very interesting, and they're usually like kind of wreathed in shadow or like have this weird lighting on them or something. I don't know. I think that the look of this movie is very striking. And it's not the same as Secret of Nim, but it's like evokes that same feeling. Like this isn't a very Nim in a lot of ways, but like when you look at the kind of the backgrounds and the kind of stuff that's in the corners of the frame, you can kind of see how this came from the same like animation perspective in a way, and I think that is cool.
It's got a little of that edge to it, like the mouse at the very end, the kind of climax scene is like pretty fucking terrifying. Like looking,
yeah. The first cat is scary too. Like Five Last like claw his way out of his throat.
Yeah, like you just have like that like very graphic scene of like Fievel getting eaten and then clawing his way out of the cat's throat. Like there's like just like the even the hurricane you have. I was when I was doing the notes, I was reading that Spielberg made Don Bluth cut more of like the wave monsters. Like he really like got into like creating these like monsters out of the waves that then were like hitting the ship.
I thought that looked cool.
I know, right?
I wanted more of that. Spielberg, how could you?
Yeah, right. Like there was those moments where like Don Bluth's kind of edge rather than just being like full Disney kind of showed up, and like that kind of adds to again like feels like that continuation from Nim.
Oh, yeah.
Grace, had you seen like did this register for you when you were a kid as like that there were other Don Bluth movies? I remember as a kid, like there being the Disney movies and there were these other animated movies, and in my head they all kind of fit together.
Me too. That's definitely how I felt. I felt like there was like Disney and then like Great Value, and like we had a lot of Great Value, but we had not only was it just like Great Value, it was also like some of the like later Great Value stuff, like the Pebble and the Penguin.
Oh, Pebble and the Penguin, yeah.
Rockadoodle. I remember loving Rockadoodle, but it's not good.
All Dogs Go to Heaven.
All Dogs Go to Heaven. Breaks my heart. All Dogs Go to Heaven too. Breaks my heart again. Like I so vividly have that. Like we never had enough Disney movies, but we had all of the other ones, and I saw all of them. And but American.
It's just interesting to me. As a kid, I had no concept of like filmmaking or like directors or studios or anything. But I understood somehow, I guess visually, it was communicated like that those all came from the same place and the Disney movies all came from the same place. And it wasn't just like, obviously the Disney movies had like the Disney castle at the beginning, but I think that there is like a visual or at least like a aesthetic sensibility that ties together a lot of those like 80s and early 90s Don Bluth movies. That's kind of interesting that they're similar in a way. Like they all have these like protagonists that are very young and like adorable, but also very like constantly traumatized. Like I guess we can talk about Land Before Time next week or next time we talk, but like that's definitely that. And then I don't know, there's just something about it. The way that he like anthropomorphizes animals, it feels cohesive in an aesthetic way that I don't necessarily always get from like let's say Disney movies, which can be like wildly different from movie to movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just remember like always being like my emotions just always being so heightened watching these compared to Disney movies. Disney movies always kind of felt one note to me.
They're they're whimsical and fun,
Yeah.
as opposed to these, which are like bummers.
Which make me sad, make me cry, make me happy. Like really, like got a lot of emotions out of me, like as a kid that like otherwise wouldn't come out or I wouldn't confront. And looking back, I think that that's really cool. That's sort of like something unique to these Don Bluth animated movies. That sharpness. Sorry, somebody just revved their car. That sharpness that really like cuts through your poor, sweet little tender child heart. And what's left is like, why is this making me sad? What about this is making me so emotional? And it's that isolation as a little kid, or in some of the other movies, it's like loss of life or mortality and stuff like that, and confronting it in these safer environments. So that's also something so different that I would notice as a kid, but like that I'm able to articulate as an adult.
In terms of like this is like an Amblin product, this is the first, like I mentioned before, this is the first full feature animated film that Spielberg did. But then of course that would turn into later, the formation of DreamWorks Pictures and Shrek and How to Train Your Dragon and all that stuff.
And he's always siphoning off ex-Disney folks too. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what's up with that, but I think it's funny.
Well, it's just kind of like from some of the quotes and notes in this one, like he just like he wants to like capture like that Disney magic to a degree with like he doesn't want to just make an animated movie, and it's it's kind of interesting. This one, I feel like this one feels more like in the realm of like How to Train Your Dragon, which is kind of like trying to do its own thing. It's not like Shrek, which is like very much built on like cultural references and fairy tale references and things like that. And so it's kind of curious to like look at this as this kind of starting point for what would end up being, DreamWorks Animation, which we talked about last week, is kind of now turning the corner to being a little bit more interesting than at least for me, a lot more interesting than a lot of the Disney products that are coming out right now.
I'm looking at some of the other Amblimation movies because, like,
Nice.
I guess they didn't. Don Bluth and Spielberg didn't keep working together, but like I'm having flashbacks looking at these titles. Like We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. Did y'all watch that?
Fun.
That's another movie with like really striking, scary stuff in it.
Yeah.
Like the dude, like the villain gets eaten by the crows at the end.
Like it's just a screw eye. Like that was terrifying.
Yeah,
I did watch Balto.
Yeah, that's kind of a weirdly like melancholy movie too at times. I don't know, like I think one of the things that's interesting about like the hegemony that Disney has over American animation is that like basically until like kind of recently, like until maybe like the 2000s, like every single animated project that has like any sort of budget or theatrical ambitions in America is in some way a reaction to Disney. And I think that's kind of like interesting that there's like this adversarial relationship like throughout like the like 70s and 80s. Like Ralph Bakshi is like intentionally doing stuff that he knows that Disney would never do because he hates like what Disney represents. And Don Bluth is intentionally doing stuff that Disney wouldn't let him do, because of his own like frustrations with Disney. And like the Amblimation stuff, I mean, like Spielberg worked with Disney, I guess, with like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a collaboration with Disney, right? But at any rate, like a lot of these movies are like counterpoints to what Disney was doing at the time, and sometimes like really strikingly so. Like, isn't this the same year as The Great Mouse Detective? Like, that's another like period piece with mice that Disney did.
I like The Great Mouse Detective more.
Really good.
I might too. The Vincent Price rat is really good. But I don't know. It is just interesting that all of these have like a symbiotic or parasitic relationship with like Disney and claim their identity based on being something that's not Disney, which I don't know. Like that's not really animation, I guess, but it's interesting in terms of looking at these individual projects.
Mm-hmm. And this came out after The Rescuers?
Yeah, The Rescuers is in the 70s sometime.
Yeah. Okay.
This is animated a lot more nicely than The Rescuers, though. The Rescuers is rough in terms of animation style. It's pretty sloppy.
I could do better. It's pretty fucking sloppy.
I could. Give me a pen and paper.
Something better.
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting also, because at least for me, I don't know how everybody else feels.
You know how I feel. I just told you.
Well, like, but like between this and like, I like Nim more than this one.
I do too.
And then we're gonna do, Land Before Time, which I haven't seen in forever. So I'm curious to see if it's like, I know like the emotions, but it's like a very sad movie.
But you did grow up with Land Before Time.
I did but
I'll be interested to see.
I haven't watched it in so long. Like I'm like, is it a good movie?
This is the thing about Don Bluth. He doesn't usually make good movies. He just makes movies.
Yeah, which I respect that. I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna get into like Anastasia and things like it. Like it's just kind of interesting, like the kind of the path he takes, because it's not. I don't know. It's like animation's also so kind of weird to talk about, because it's kind of like you have to have there's just kind of like these animators who have this very stark style, like you mentioned Ralph Bakshi, like you wouldn't mistake a movie of his, like
right.
Whether you like it or not. Hayao Miyazaki like has a very distinct style to his movies, and even today with like the Spider-Verse movies, distinct style that like people respond to. And like Don Bluth has a style, but it's just kind of like this amalgamation between like residuals of Golden Age Disney and kind of his own reinterpretations of it. And for whatever reason, it just kind of, I feel like, lives in this like middle ground of, it's not showy enough to be like heralded necessarily, but it's also not bad. And so it's just kind of like this middle ground, and like there's not really ever time to like give attention to the middle ground animators, at least. I
think his stuff is so context dependent too, because like for instance, like Secret of Nim is good, but I think it meant a whole lot more if you watched it in the early 80s, when like that kind of like craft in animation was just like so few and far between, and like specifically that kind of like seriousness with like a feature film in America was like more or less unheard of. And like I think in the same way, like American Tail is kind of that. Like if you look at like the Disney stuff from like the 80s, it's like struggling on an animation level, because it's starting to incorporate like some of the like caps and like computer animated stuff, but like they weren't yet giving all the budget to it. And like the Black Cauldron was a disaster and stuff. Like those the like a lot of the movies at the time were just like these shambling like Frankenstein creations, and like this is a fairly cohesive movie in terms of like the aesthetic it's trying to do, and like the level of professionalism in terms of like how it's animated, and I think that now it's harder to appreciate that. And like even when I was a kid, like growing up with like 90s Disney, but which by that time was like these pristine blockbuster productions, like it was kind of hard. It always felt a little bit cheaper, but I think that like if you watch it in the context of like The Fox and the Hound or The Great Mouse Detective is kind of Disney regaining its footing, but even so, the animation can be a little rough at times.
A little rough in that.
I think that these movies stand out a lot more if that's what you're getting with animation. Sure.
No, I would agree with that. Any final thoughts on American Tail before we wrap up? Any last defense of Fievel, Grace? I don't know if it's gonna sway us, but like,
Oh, I remember watching, and I don't think I was ever like, Fievel, come on. I think
I was like that the entire time.
The part that gets me is the part when he gets swept off the boat, aka jumps. Like a lot of the other stuff is him just being naive, but
Yeah.
he intentionally throws his hat through the door and is like, "Dad, I gotta go get
Yeah.
my hat," and jumps into the extremely dangerous storm.
Just like all around stupid. Just a stupid move. I'm sorry.
My cats will do that with their toys. They'll like toss it under a door, and it's like, oh, I have to go get that now. That's crazy. So I think they got it from American Tail. I thought he was so sweet and so brave when he comes out there, and he's like, don't worry, I'll scare them away. When he starts to like bang the pots and pans to scare away the cat sacks. Would we say that instead of Cossacks? The cat sacks? Like, I don't know.
I think they call them the Cossacks, but like cat sacks sounds better.
Yeah, there's and then in America they could be the like cat spitalists.
Ah!
Hey.
Yo! We're so good. But I thought he was brave and curious, and those are two sweet qualities in your protagonist that's taking on a whole new world. I think him ditching his parents for the first few weeks while he gets the lay of the land in America, best thing to happen to him, because he doesn't have them holding him back. Like, his dad's old, his mom's got the Tanya. I mean, she's like, utility. Oh no! Skip it. Did I cut out?
A little bit.
No? Oh, I don't know.
It kind of sounds like that Arrested Development gag where he's talking about his mom and then it just bleeps for a long time.
My mother.
Well,
Beep, 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 beep. Well, nobody's gonna top that.
I had all that to say about his mom. No, I was saying his mom has a baby, and Tanya is very stressed about being renamed Tilly. So him not having his family for the first few weeks lets him, like, go around, get a feel for things, establish a name for himself before the very sweet family reunion at the very end. And that was sweet, and it becomes like this golden moment. The animation changes, the color changes, and it's like bright.
There's lots
shiny.
of sparkles, yeah.
Yeah, and it's sweet. And so that was my last defense of Fievel. Take it or leave it. I
like Fievel's family. His dad is. I like his dad. His dad gets my favorite line in the movie, which is, they're always having these narrow misses with Fievel, and so his sister keeps thinking Fievel's alive. And at one point, she's like, "Dad, I just feel like Fievel's still alive," and his dad just goes, "It'll pass."
I like when they're climbing up the rope, and he goes, "This is a lot," and they're like, "Keep moving, keep walking," and then Fievel keeps trying to ask questions, and then his dad says, "This is the last time I take you to America." I'm like,
yeah, that's a good line too.
Yeah.
Well, if you would like to watch An American Tail, Internet Movie Archive has a VHS rip, if that's kind of your feeling, or you can watch it with captions with a nice rip on 123movies.com.
Or you can pay like $5 or something to rent it on.
Yeah, you can pay $5, but don't do that. Like,
Hey, Amazon, boo.
Take the nostalgia trip. Watch it on VHS on Internet Archive, like Grace.
The VHS rip does open with it's like the whole VHS, isn't it? Like the copy protection and everything.
Yeah. It was on there for a minute, and I was like, "Is this gonna play? Is it frozen?" I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
But all right, well, that will wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/cinemataries, on Twitter and Instagram at handle @cinematary, and on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com, where we list all the movies that we talked about in this episode. If you would like to support the show, go to patreon.com/cinematary. We're happy to, any support for the show is welcome. Thank you to our patrons, Cam, Chad Newsom, Candace Sisson, Ron Hayes, and Teresa Marsathi, and Tyler Chandler. Thank you so much for your patronage. Next week, we're going to continue our Don Bluth series with 1988's The Land Before Time. And until then...